now we have opportunity to talk. Just please take a seat. Pozdravljam se Mirando Voulasantra, to je moja kolegica, že dolg časa se poznava in bova se pogovorili in o njenem delu in o njenem videnju, kako živi romska skupnost danes v Evropi. Danes imam res izredno priložnost, da se pogovorimo z Mirando Voulasantra, ki je predsednica Evropskega foruma za Rome in Potujočih v Svetu Evrope in ena od pobudnic za to mednarodno sodelovanje. Now I have this really great pleasure to speak with you. As I know you are president of European Roma Forum, but what is the most important, the initiative for this international forum, it started in Finland, and it is also your big success. And please, if you can tell me how it was when you started with this working in this field for improvement of national participation of the Roma.
Well, it's a very long story, but let me try to be very short. I was born in Finland. My father came from the Russian side of previous Finland, Karelia, and my mother came from Swedish side, to the Swedish-speaking Finland. And I was born in the middle of Finland, as said, and my father was a kind of war refugee, which we call in Finland Eko, and we found our home in Suomi. I went to school there. We were 5 children, plus 2 adopted children who grew up with us. So we were quite a big family. When I went to my school there, I was in gymnasium age, and I was speaking with my teachers, the kind of study culture, how to continue my studies.
Samo na kratko bom povedala, Miranda je rekla, da je to dolga zgodba, da je povezana z njenim otroštvom. Oče je prišel z enega dela, to se pravi takrat Karelije, in v srednji Finski so oni odraščali v družini 5 otrok, in ko je ona hodila v šolo in ko je bila v gimnaziji, je začela iskati skupaj z učitelji možnost za nadaljevanje študija.
Yes, when speaking with my study mentor, the guide, she asked from me, what are your plans for the future? I said, I don't know yet, but I'm planning to continue in university. I would be interested of being a lawyer or a teacher, or I don't know what. Let's see. And then she was looking at me quietly for a while, and then she said, Miranda, you are a Roma, you are a gypsy. If you decide, I'm using her words, using the word gypsy, if you choose to be traditional Roman woman, and there is actually no reason for you to go and continue your studies, because you will never find a job here.
No, in potem, ko se je z svojo mentorico, učiteljico pogovarjala o tem in je povedala, da bi si želela, da nadaljuje šolanje na univerzi, bodi si kot da bi bila pravnica, učiteljica, jo je nekako učiteljica usmerila in rekla, poslušaj, ti si Romkinja, ciganka, gypsy. In če hočeš biti tradicionalna romska ženska in živeti po teh običajih, tukaj zaposlitve na Finskem ne boš dobila.
That was first time in my life, I was 17 at that stage, when I had to start to consider, because it was really a kind of flip on my face, to recognize a teacher guide, a mentor, to say to me that there is no reason for you, there is no future for you here in Finland.
Da sem slišala take stavke, da mi je učiteljica rekla, da ni nobenega razloga, ni pomena, da bi šla študirati in da ni moje prihodnosti na tem področju.
Nobody's going to hire me. Whatever kind of profession I will be studying and finishing. And then that could be in identity crisis.
In to je povzročilo pri meni določeno krizo identitete, ker mi je rekla se, da ne bo noben zaposlil.
I was asking for myself, why would my culture, my language and my ethnic origin be an obstacle for all that, for my future? Why isn't birth the same as for the others? Why I should learn about indigenous people, Mexicans, Europeans, Chinese, and then still my culture, my origin is not accepted.
Takrat sem bila stara 17 let. Nisem mogla razumeti. To se pravi, v okviru šolanja sem se učila o kulturah v Braziliji, Meksiku, oddaljenih državah. Bile so vredne poučevanja, da pa je moja kultura, moj jezik, pa je bila ovira za to, da bi za mojo prihodnost in da bi me kdorkoli, kot je rekla učiteljica, zaposlil na Finskem. Nisem mogla tega razumeti.
That made me to decide that I will leave Finland. I will move to Sweden because I've heard that there is possibilities, there is so much migrating people, that they are more solidary. There is more solidarity, there is more acceptance in Swedish society. So I moved to Sweden to continue my studies.
To me je spodbudilo, da sem šla na Švedsko, da sem se preselila na Švedsko. Slišala sem, da je tam družba bolj odprta in da bom imela več možnosti za študij in potem tudi za vključevanje v družbo.
I became a teacher of Romani language and Romani history in Sweden after 6 years of studies.
Študirala sem 6 let in postala sem učiteljica romskega jezika in romske kulture na Švedskem.
During my stay in Sweden, I recognized that Sweden was like, at that time, in the 17th, like a small America. A lot of different kind of migrating people were there, including Roma from all different countries.
Takrat v 70-ih letih je bila Švedska nekako mala Amerika. Prihajalo mnogo ljudi, tudi Romov iz Finske, in vsi so živeli v nekakšnem sožitju.
I was invited by the migration department of Sweden to work in a working group, collaborate with them, which was composed of Roma from other countries, from Sweden, from Finland, and plus high-level administrators, to collaborate them to find solutions for the housing, for the labor questions, for the education questions.
Bila sem povabljena v delovno skupino, v kateri so sodelovali tako migranti, priseljenci iz Finske in iz drugih držav, pa tudi zelo visoko pozicionirani uslužbenci vlade. In skupaj smo iskali rešitve na področju stanovanja, izobraževanja in delovnih pravic.
I also produced some of my own teaching materials because at that time there were no published Romani language teaching materials.
Do takrat ni bilo tiskanega gradiva o romskem jeziku in jaz sem pripravila pripravila nekaj gradiva o poučevanju romskega jezika.
And I also founded Roma organizations, Roma who were migrated from elsewhere to Sweden, representative forums for them.
In ustanovila sem tudi organizacije, v katerih so bili Romi, ki so prišli iz različnih krajev in na ta način sem omogočila tudi njihovo medsebojno sodelovanje.
I networked myself with many authorities, ministries, migration departments, also with some elderly Roma who had been working in Sweden, like Alex Tobin, like Seija Ketola, good friends of mine who had a lot of knowledge of this multicultural Swedish society at that time.
Takrat je bilo to večkulturna družba in v tej naši skupini so sodelovali tako tisti Romi, ki so že dlje časa živeli in delali na Švedskem, kot tudi novi priseljenci, ki so prišli na Švedsko. Sodelovali smo z različnimi ministrstvi in drugimi vladi.
In the middle of the teens, I moved back to Finland and I started to fight to find the working place for me, dressed in my traditional Romani dress.
Sredi 80-ih let sem se vrnila na Finsko in sem se začela boriti za svoje mesto v družbi za zaposlitev v svojem tradicionalnem romskem oblačilu.
My friends said, that's never going to happen.
Prijatelji so mi rekli, to se ne bo nikoli zgodilo.
And I decided, I answered to my friends, let's see, that's an open question. I will make them to understand.
Čeprav so jo prijatelji odvračali od tega in so rekli, ne, to ti ne bo nikoli uspelo, sem se odločila in sem rekla, to bo uspelo bo.
I gave out interviews. I was appearing in newspapers, in radio, everywhere.
Povsod sem se pojavljala v časopisu, v intervjujih na radiju, povsod sem bila prisotna.
I taught in Finland. I was the very first Romani language teacher there in primary school and also in the secondary level of the school.
Bila sem prva učiteljica romskega jezika na Finskem. Poučevala sem v osnovni šoli, pa tudi naprej.
So I found my working place.
Našla sem svoje mesto za delo in zaposlitev.
Although for the first 2 years I worked without salary.
Čeprav prve 2 leti sem delala brez plačila.
I wanted to show to the local municipalities of education responsible municipalities that this is worth, and Roma children and Roma pupils, Roma parents and homes, they are interested about this issue.
Hotela sem pokazati lokalnim oblastem, pa tudi drugim, da si romski otroci, romski starši in vsi Romi zaslužijo to in da so željni takega poučevanja.
And it was for sure a very important part for the identity of the Romani children in the school world.
In to je bil zelo pomemben korak za identiteto romskih otrok v šoli.
I published some teaching materials, and after I think something like 10 years, I changed my working place.
Okoli 10 let smo tiskali, tudi smo pripravili priročnike za poučevanje romskega jezika in to sem delala okoli 10 let. Potem pa sem spremenila svoje delovno okolje.
I was actually invited by the Ministry of Social Personnel to work there as a planner officer of Roma Advisory Group on Romani Affairs.
Bila sem povabljena, da bi delala na področju kot svetovalka v odboru za socialna in zdravstvena vprašanja.
Within that position, and later on in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where I continued, I was invited to international tasks.
In tako, potem sem sodelovala tudi z Ministrstvom za zunanje zadeve in to je bil začetek mojega dela na mednarodnem področju.
And I already had then, when I worked for the Minister of Foreign Affairs, a kind of, dream that I want to learn more. I want to educate myself further to the field of international human rights.
In imela sem željo, posebej, ko sem delala na Ministrstvu za zunanje zadeve, da se naučim še več, da se še več izobražujem na področju varstva človekovih pravic.
And that was what I did, and within that I was sent later on, when I became a specialist on Romani human rights issues and Romani culture, I was sent by the Finnish government to the Council of Europe.
No in ko sem postala strokovnjak na področju varstva manjšinskih pravic in pravic Romov, me je Ministrstvo za zunanje zadeve poslalo kot strokovnjaka v Svetu Evrope.
And it is true what you asked related to ERTF, the European Roma and Travelers Forum, that one day I got a call in Finland, in Helsinki, to my working place from the private office of the at then sitting president.
In res je to, kar je bilo že omenjeno, da sem nekega dne dobila v svoj urad, oziroma na svoje delovno mesto, klic od predsednika oziroma predsednice finske vlade.
The question which was asked from me was, what would you, Miranda, say about how to develop further the Roma participation? What to do to enhance the position of Roma in Europe?
Vprašanje je bilo, Miranda, kako misliš, lahko izboljšamo položaj Romov v Evropi, kaj lahko naredimo?
A very demanding and difficult situation. In that situation, I was so afraid to answer to the private office on this, and I said, could I think about it one day?
Na tako zahtevno, zapleteno vprašanje nisem takoj našla odgovora. Rekla sem, ali lahko dobim en dan časa in bom našla odgovor.
I was given that one day, and after that I wrote something, a proposal, and then it was defined by the president herself, Mrs. Taija Halonen, and afterwards she had been invited to speak, to give a speech on the European human rights situation in front of the plenary assembly of the Council of Europe.
To je bila predsednica Taija Halonen in jaz sem pripravila, v enem dnevu sem pripravila odgovor in ona je bila povabljena, da govori na plenarnem zasedanju Sveta Evrope.
And that was the origin of the quite a big political fight and work for the establishment of the first international joint Roma organization.
To je bil začetek tega, in borbe za to, da so Romi ustanovili svojo prvo mednarodno združenje na evropski ravni. Congratulations. Vse čestitke. In kot sem že omenila, Miranda je zdaj predsednica tega Evropskega foruma. Jaz jo bom samo še vprašala, ali vidi, kako vidi napredek na področju izboljšanja položaja Romov in ali je ta Evropski forum prispeval k temu. Now I already said that you are president of European Roma and Travelers Forum now, and my question is, do you see any improvement from that very beginning? I have to say that we met already at that time, in the very beginning of this process. And do you see any improvement, and in which field what do you think is the most important this improvement and the value of this European Roma Forum as a kind of political participation and affirmation of the culture of Roma?
Well, 20 years has gone since that time.
Yeah.
And I have to add here that the establishment of the European Roma and Travelers Forum was not my work alone. I mean, there were ambassadors, there were all the 47 Council of Europe member state ambassadors who were composed in the Committee of Ministers of Council of Europe. So all of these 47 member states had played their part. The Finnish ambassador at that time, Ambassador Mrs. Anne-Marie Nylund, played her very important influential role. The President, Mrs. Tarja Halonen, herself played an important high-level political player. And of course, I was working in the Secretariat 6 years for this issue. So, and then upon to all these players, there were, of course, about 20 to 30 Roma leaders who took part in this process for 3-4 years before ERTF was established.
Ja, Miranda je rekla, to ni samo moj dosežek, vsi predstavniki 47 držav so pri tem sodelovali in seveda tu je prispevek tudi predsednice Tarje Halonen in finske predsednice takrat in vseh drugih. Jaz sem 6 let delala v sekretariatu.
So it was a harsh political and long harsh political process.
To je bil dolg in težek politični proces.
Finally, 2004 and 2005, it was registered in Strasbourg, and politically ERTF wrote a partnership agreement, which was a unique agreement between Council of Europe and the kind of civic rights movement of Europe.
Ja, in takrat je bil sklenjen dogovor med tem Evropskim forumom in Svetom Evrope, kar je bil edinstven primer v Evropi takrat.
And I have to give gratitude to Council of Europe because it was that very institution in Europe who started the interest to work for the equality of Roma, the pan-European Roma minority in Europe.
Zato moram biti hvaležna in sem hvaležna Svetu Evrope, da je pokazal in naredil te korake za večjo prisotnost in enakost romske skupnosti.
And I have to say that I was lucky to have opportunity to be within this, to find my place in this process.
Bila sem srečna in sem srečna, da sem imela svojo vlogo na tem procesu.
Well, the poverty, the needs of equal rights, these issues are not anymore as important as they used to be during 19th, during year 2000, 2010 even. Then everything, at the same time when European Union has taken a lot over of these duties and tasks to follow up the Roma rights, there are other crises which are in the air.
Ja, v tem času krize se zdi, da so ta vprašanja enakosti Romov nekako niso več v ospredju in bom rekla, da mogoče tudi povezanosti procesi znotraj Evropske unije, ki je prevzela tudi te borbe za pravice romske skupnosti, da so nekako ostale v ozadju. ker so prevladala ta splošna vprašanja krize v Evropi.
I give you an example.
Dala mu primer.
When the worst war started in Ukraine, we, as ERTF, we recognized that Roma as a minority there were treated even more badly by the nationalists and also by the both parties.
Bom dala primer, ko se je začela vojna v Ukrajini, se je zgodilo, da so romsko skupnost zelo grdo obravnavale obe strani, nacionalisti na obeh stranih.
We were in contact, for example, to human rights lawyers in Ukraine, and we got information that Roma are used as a wall between the fighting parties.
Od organizacij za varstvo človekovih pravic v Ukrajini smo izvedeli, da so Rome izkoriščali za živi zid med sprtima stranima.
Roma mothers with their small children were not allowed to be part of the refugees of the war on the borders of Ukraine. They were not allowed.
Romske ženske z majhnimi otroci njim ni bilo dovoljeno, da bi bile kot obravnavane kot drugi begunci na mejnem območju.
Inside of the society were even ultra-nationalistic thoughts that minorities supposed to be disappear from Ukraine, so it doesn't matter if they will be shot.
Nekako tudi njihova življenja niso bila zavarovana, ker se za ultranacionaliste življenje teh skupnosti ni bilo pomembno.
We wrote a letter to the private office of Ulrika von der Leyen
in smo kot forum napisali pismo vodstvu Evropske unije,
asking European Union to follow up more thoroughly the situation of minorities. And there were other minorities than Roma, but the Roma were the most vulnerable, mostly hated minority.
In potem smo v tem pismu zahtevali večjo skrb in pozornost za begunce, ki so pripadniki manjšinskih skupnosti. In med manjšinskimi skupnostmi so bili Romi najbolj izpostavljeni.
So all this is to show to you that we are living in let's say, times where the human rights, minority rights, the humanity is not anymore in the same value as it was 20 years ago.
Ja, živimo v času, v obdobju, ko človekove pravice, pravice manjšin, nimajo več take veljave in niso tako v ospredju mednarodnega dogajanja, kot je bilo to pred 20 leti, nažalost.
And I was very lucky year 2021 when I was invited to the Remember React worldwide congress, which was organized by the Swedish government as a follow-up to the establishment congress, the third World's Holocaust Congress, which was organized in Stockholm year 2000.
In zato sem bila zelo vesela, ko sem bila povabljena pred 2 leti na to srečanje za ohranjanje spomina na holokaust.
So 2 years ago I had this opportunity to have a very short 3-minute speech in the main plenary, the opening plenary of the Remember React Congress of IHRE.
In dobila sem možnost takrat pred 2 leti, da sem v 3 minutah lahko spregovorila na plenarnem zasedanju organizacije za spomin na holokaust. To je IHRE in midve sva obe danes tukaj.
So I'm very grateful for IHRE for giving for us Roma this historical opportunity.
In zato sem vesela, da ta mednarodna organizacija za spomin na holokaust je dala tudi Romom priložnost, da spregovorimo o romskem genocidu.
Keeping in mind that was the first time ever Roma, the European Roma, had with me possibility to have a say in this context of genocide and remembrance of Holocaust, what to do for it.
To je bilo prvič, da smo Romi v Evropi dobili priložnost, da spregovorimo o tem in o spominu na romski genocid. So thank you very much, Miranda. It was very, very interesting. I'm very glad that I have an opportunity again to be with you, and I hope that all together with this good will also have possibility to implement these good intentions.
I'm looking forward for that.
Ja, jaz sem še enkrat povedala, da sem zelo vesela, da smo se srečali sedaj v okviru organizacije IHRE in da upam, da bomo skupaj s skupnimi napori dosegli tudi, da se uresničijo te dobre želje za izboljšanje položaja Romov in spomina na romsko skupnost. And what do you think about this racism, actually, this, we can say, anti-Gypsyism or anti-Romism? Do you think that it still exists in Europe? Vprašala sem jo, kakšno njeno mnenje ali da diskriminacija do Romov, anti-Romizem, proti-Romizem, ali še obstaja v Evropi. And do you know any case or it happened maybe?
Unfortunately, it looks like we humans have a very short memory, and therefore there is a need of remembrance and reminding of people, because it looks like anti-Gypsyism or Romophobia doesn't disappear. Likewise, anti-Semitism doesn't disappear. On the opposite, it seems to be rapidly increasing.
Rekla je, da imamo nažalost ljudje kratek spomin in zato je pomembno, da obstajajo take organizacije, ki nas spominjajo na take dogodke, ki so se v zgodovini zgodili. V današnjem trenutku pa se mi zdi, da se ta anti-romizem ali proti-romizem celo krepi.
When I came here as invited by the IHRE plenary meeting to Zagreb,
ko sem prišla kot povabljen gost na to plenarno zasedanje IHRE
in 28th of October 2023, I started my travel from Helsinki at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Sem začela svoje potovanje 28. oktobra v Helsinkiju ob 3 zjutraj.
After 3 security checking, which first was done in Helsinki, second was done in Paris, Charles de Gaulle, where I was supposed to change the terminal and the
Doživela sem tri varnostne preglede, to se pravi tretji v Parizu, v Franciji.
After 2 of security checks, I came to the 3rd security check after changing the terminal.
In po tem, ko smo morali spremeniti terminal v Parizu,
and I had already been checked,
sem bila že čekirana.
I was sitting in a wheelchair and came through the first checking.
In bila sem na invalidskem vozičku.
The lady checked me with hands.
In ta uslužbenka me je najprej pregledala z rokami.
It was an Air France security squad checking.
To se pravi, to je bila v organizaciji Air France.
Suddenly, the lady started to be very nervous and very stressed, and she demanded me to undress me publicly.
Postala je zelo živčna in zahtevala je, naj se slečem tam na javnem prostoru.
I was sitting there and I said, "What did you ask?"
Nisem mogla verjeti, vprašala sem, kaj zahtevate od mene.
You're supposed to take off your clothes.
Pričakujem od vas, da slečete svoje krilo.
I was looking on the queue behind me and the people who were in front of me, and I said, "It's not going to happen, never ever. Are you really asking me to undress me publicly?"
In pogledala sem to vrsto ljudi, ki je bila pred mano, za mano. Rekla sem, to se nikoli ne bo zgodilo, da bi se slekla na javnem prostoru.
Yes, because you are suspectful. You might be criminal. You might have some narcotics or whatever.
Vi ste, in ona je odgovorila, uslužbenka, vi ste mi sodila, zaradi tega lahko nosite kakšna mamila ali karkoli.
I asked, why? Well, because of your clothes. What does it mean for you, I asked.
In vprašala sem, zakaj, in je rekla ona zaradi vašega oblačila. Rekla sem, zakaj.
I recognized that she had recognized me to be a Roma, a gypsy.
Razumela, spoznala sem, da je ona v meni prepoznala, da sem Romkinja ali Ciganka.
So the normal check-in, even though it was the third one already on the same day, inside of the same airport, it wasn't enough because I belonged to Roma, to gypsies, so I was suspectful.
To se pravi, ona je dvomila, njej sem bila sumljiva zaradi tega, ker sem Romkinja kot Ciganka in zaradi tega, to se pravi, tretji varnostni pregled sem doživela.
I refused, of course, to undress me publicly because of my culture.
Zaradi moje kulture.
The chastity rules.
Sem nikakor nisem mogla sprejeti, da bi se slekla pred
normal civilization, it was humiliating.
To je bila velika žalitev za mene.
And I realized that it was pure racism.
In razumela sem, da to je bil izraz rasizma.
Then they said, after 15 minutes of this discussion, we bring you back into the cabin and you undress yourself.
Po 15 minutah so rekli, odpeljavite bomo nazaj v kabino in tam se boš slekla.
I was brought to the cabin, I undressed me, but they were not interested about my clothes.
In v kabini sem se slekla krilo, ampak njih ni več zanimalo to krilo in niso sploh pregledovali mojih oblačil.
Instead, they decided to call police, the national security police.
Namesto tega so poklicali policijo.
They didn't find anything, but they still went on.
Niso našli ničesar, ampak vsem so nadaljevali s tem.
After half an hour, me standing in the cabin undressed.
To se pravi, pol ure so me pustili slečeno v kabini.
Police came.
Prišla je policija.
And he asked what is going on.
In policaj je vprašal, kaj se dogaja.
The three women from security squad said, well, I'm suspected, I might be criminal, they want to check me, although they had already checked me.
Tri ženske so rekle, ja, ona bi lahko bila kriminalc, ona je nekako sumljiva.
I explained to the police.
Razložila sem policaju.
I'm well aware about the legislation. I am a disabled person, and you are right now doing a criminal offense against me and against the law.
Ona mu je razložila, kakšna so pravna pravila, opozorila ga je to, da je ona na invalidskem vozičku in da dejansko to, kar oni delajo, je kaznivo dejanje.
France do belong to EU, and all the EU regulations, including the national regulations of equality, non-discrimination, rights of disabled people. So there are many legislative regulations which are prohibited in this.
Ja, in opozorila je, da tako mednarodni dokumenti, kot tudi zakonodaja Francije, ki je članica Evropske unije, prepovedujejo to, kar so oni storili. To se pravi, ona tudi na invalidskem vozičku in s tako žalitvijo.
The policeman was seemingly ashamed.
Videlo se je, da je policaja postalo sram.
Because they realized that I was educated.
Ker je razumel, da je ona izobražena in da pozna pravna
And I knew my rights.
In da pozna človekove pravice.
The policeman said to the security squad, let her go.
In on je naročil temu službenkam varnostne službe naj jo pustijo.
But this showed where we are with the racism and Romanophobia today in Europe.
Ampak ta primer, ki sem ga doživela, ki sem ga povedala, kaže na to, na kateri ravni je danes romofobija in antiromizem v Evropi danes.
And for sure, I felt humiliated, disregarded, discriminated, treated with peer racism.
Počutila sem se, bila sem ponižana, diskriminirana in tudi kot žrtev rasizma.
So, unfortunately, we are here. Not really much progress on this issue. So, this is a very good proof for us that we have to continue with this work, with the remembrance, with fighting against racism, discrimination, and Romanophobia in Europe today.
In ta primer dokazuje, da se moramo še naprej boriti tako proti romofobiji, rasizmu in za enakost in spoštovanje vseh. Thank you very much, Miranda.